Bring us coffee, tea, and rum. One day the tonguing is done, take our leave and go. At a fair last on the town, her hair was blonde and this was brown. She made a whaler man come around.
The Cumberland Rover channel is mainly focused on building and sailing small wooden boats, but I occasionally like to branch out. This summer, I've been on a skimboarding kick. It started as a DIY project. I built 3 skimboards of different shapes out of plywood to find out which one was best. Testing the boards reminded me of how much fun skimboarding is. I rediscovered the joy of my teenage skateboarding days. I've really enjoyed my home-built skimboards, and it's unbelievable how much fun you can have on what amounts to an intentionally warped piece of plywood. But I wanted to find out how my DIY boards compared to the modern fiberglass version. Someone in the Ron John warehouse was probably chuckling to themselves about shipping a skimboard to landlocked western Kentucky. Though it's mainly associated with the ocean shore, there is such a thing as inland skimboarding, also known as flatland, which is about sliding far on thin water and doing skateboard style tricks like shove-its and big spins, instead of jumping or surfing waves. Through my small boat adventures, I've discovered countless skim spots, small creeks, big puddles, and sandy riverbanks. With the dreamsicle loaded in the stern of my home-built P-row, I was headed for a small sandbar just off the launch area. On satellite view, it looked like perfect thin water for skimboarding, but I had never been there and didn't know what to expect. Kentucky Lake was at summer pool, so there's less exposed shore and deeper water near the banks. Not ideal for skimboarding, but this sandbar looked like it could be one of the few decent summer skim spots. My skim rig is the 12-foot Solo P-row. It's my arrangement of a traditional design, perfect for day outings and float trips, or just getting to skim spots. You can check out the full build video on this channel to see how easy a boat like this is to hammer together in a weekend. I also have full plans available, linked in the description. Arriving at the sandbar, the P-row bottomed out well before reaching shore, which was actually a good sign. The bar was flat and shallow, as I had hoped. It was a wee bit deeper than I'd have liked, and the run-up curved around a small willow tree, but it wasn't half bad for Kentucky Lake at summer pool. My first experience with a production skimboard was a positive one. Despite being brand new to skimming, I instantly recognized increased float and stiffness compared to my home-built plywood boards. But at that point, I was still learning and wasn't yet comfortable enough on a board to fully appreciate these advantages. The previous sequence was recorded over a month before this video was released, and in the meantime, I've improved a lot on the board. In the next sequence, you'll notice I developed much more control after a couple weeks practicing with the new board. You'll see what I mean. I'll play the following creek session montage, then conclude the video with my thoughts on home-built versus commercial boards. Just found this perfect little mini sandbar down on the lower part of the creek, and the water level is just right at the moment. But I'm out here by myself and my phone is saying SOS, so no signal. I'll have to be careful, but I want to go ahead and hit it while the water's right. If it comes down or if it rises, this really isn't a spot anymore, so I'm going to give it a shot cautiously. Got to do a little preparation first, move some sticks out of the way and kind of prepare the runway a little bit. Now, with some solid hours logged on both styles of board, I offer my analysis, comparing my DIY plywood skimboards to the fiberglass Ronjon. The commercial board is lighter, more rigid, and has a fast, slick finish on the bottom. But the biggest difference is float. The 1/4-inch plywood boards are basically sinkers, relying mainly on speed to stay up on top of the water. The combined light weight and 3/4-inch thickness of the Ronjon board makes it more buoyant, allowing me to glide farther and stay up longer, especially over deep water. This factor is called float. The float of a board is directly correlated with its internal volume. More volume equals more float. And I've discovered float is very important for skimboards. Overall, the commercial board does perform better than my DIY boards, but there are a few drawbacks to consider. The most obvious is price. The Ronjon cost a little over $200 shipped, which is still on the lower end for quality skimboards, whereas a sheet of 2 by 4 foot 1/4 inch plywood to build a short DIY board is a mere $11, at least in my area, and paint is the only other expense. Also, the fiberglass board is kind of delicate compared to the plywood. Even my best skim spots that are mostly sand still have some rocks mixed in. As a result, the Ronjon board has started to accumulate battle scars. The finish, that I think is some kind of gel coat, is easily chipped, and the same goes for the sharp lower edge of the rail. Much like a fiberglass boat, you end up with patches of exposed fiberglass here and there where the gel coat is damaged. Maybe this is less of an issue for you coastal elite with your pristine ocean shore beaches, but in the rivers and creeks of western Kentucky, there are rocks everywhere, even among concentrations of sand. In my experience, plywood is much more durable, and gouges can easily be sanded and touched up. It's also not like you're damaging a highly valuable object with a DIY plywood board. You can just build another one when it wears out. Finally, the rigid structure of the fiberglass board is great for performance, but potentially makes it more susceptible to going crunch if you land the wrong way on it. Plywood, on the other hand, has some flexibility and is more likely to bend. It can just take more of a beating than glass. My conclusion is that a high-performance commercial board is worth buying, but only if you've already fallen in love with skimboarding, and personally, I kind of have. Plywood boards are a great way to get started skimming, and also an arrow worth having in the quiver for rough or rocky spots or riding rails and obstacles. And as I said in the original build video, building a plywood skimboard is so cheap, easy, and fun that there's really no reason not to build one. If you've enjoyed my skimboarding videos, there's good news. More are on the way. I've had a blast with this summer side project and intend to keep it going for a while. Well, at least until I get burnt out or the water gets too cold. So join me on the next episode of Skid Files as I apply my newly discovered appreciation of volume to a completely different style of build. I will attempt to build a massive 22 by 62 inch hybrid skimboard of 5mm ply and foam board. That's right, the same foam board used to insulate houses. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. Tune in next time to find out. In the meantime, if you're new to the channel, you may want to check out my boat building videos. That's mainly what I do here, build and sail small wooden boats. I even have plans available for my designs. Most of my designs are bare bones simple and very beginner friendly. Plans for my 12-foot solo P-row and 16-foot pelican punt are linked in the description of this video. Thank you for your support, and thanks for watching.